It's 3 a.m. and you're awake. Your phone is face down, the room is dark, and your brain has already decided something is wrong with you. You call it insomnia. You blame the coffee, the stress, the blue light. But the real answer is far stranger. For most of human history, waking up in the middle of the night wasn't a disorder. It was Tuesday. Your ancestors didn't sleep the way you do, not even close. And the night you're dreading right now, the one where you lie there staring at the ceiling, used to be one of the most productive, intimate, and strangely peaceful parts of the human day. Let's go back. Not decades, centuries. In the early 1990s, a historian named A. Roger Ekirch started digging through old court records, diaries, and medical texts from pre-industrial Europe. He wasn't looking for anything about sleep specifically, but he kept running into the same odd phrase over and over in documents hundreds of years old. People wrote about their first sleep, and then, later, their second sleep. Not one block of rest, two. Kirch found references to this pattern in thousands of documents, from court depositions to plays to personal letters. People would go to bed shortly after dark, sleep for 3 or 4 hours, and then wake up. Not in a panic. Not reaching for a screen. They'd wake up naturally in the middle of the night and just be awake for a while. What did they do at that time? Some prayed. Some talked quietly with a partner in bed. Some got up and tended the fire, checked on animals, or visited neighbors who were also awake in that same strange window. Physicians of the era even recommended it as a good time for conception, calm reflection, or working through a problem you couldn't solve during the busy daylight hours. There are records of people using this time to interpret dreams from their first sleep, almost like a nightly journaling session built directly into human biology. Then, after an hour or two of this quiet wakefulness, they'd drift into a second sleep that carried them until dawn. 2 sleeps. 1 long night. A built-in intermission. Sound impossible? It isn't. Because a psychiatrist named Thomas Wehr decided to test it directly. In the early 1990s, Wehr ran an experiment at the National Institute of Mental Health. He took a group of people and put them in a controlled setting with 14 hours of darkness a night. No artificial light allowed, mimicking the long winter nights our ancestors would have experienced before electricity existed. No screens, no lamps, just darkness, for 14 hours, every night for weeks. At first, the participants just slept longer, catching up on what researchers now call sleep debt. But after about a month, something shifted. Their sleep split. They started falling asleep for a few hours, waking naturally in the middle of the night, staying calmly awake for an hour or two, and then sliding into a second block of sleep before morning. The exact pattern Ekirch had found buried in centuries-old diaries showed up again, spontaneously, in a modern laboratory. Nobody taught these people to sleep this way. Their bodies simply remembered. So why don't you sleep like this anymore? The answer is light, specifically artificial light, and how thoroughly it rewired your internal clock. Your brain runs on something called a circadian rhythm, a roughly 24-hour cycle that tells your body when to release melatonin, when to feel alert, and when to wind down. For nearly all of human history, that rhythm was set by one thing: the sun. When it got dark, your ancestors' brains began preparing for rest. When it got light, they woke up. Firelight existed, but it's dim and orange, nothing like the light that fills your evenings now. Then came gas lamps. Then electric bulbs. Then televisions, computers, and phones that glow directly into your eyes at close range, late into the night. A sleep researcher named Charles Cheisler has spent decades studying exactly what this kind of light does to your circadian rhythm. His work helped establish that even modest exposure to artificial light in the evening can suppress melatonin production and shift your internal clock later, tricking your brain into thinking the day isn't over yet. You're not just staying up later by choice. Your biology is being actively convinced that it's still daytime. The result is that modern humans compress what used to be an 8 or 9 hour 2-part night into one uninterrupted block, forced to happen all at once, often shortened, often fought for. And when your brain, still running ancient software, tries to do what it's done for hundreds of thousands of years, wake up naturally in the middle of the night, you don't recognize it as normal. You recognize it as failure. You reach for your phone, you check the time, you do math about how many hours you have left. Your heart rate climbs. A biological intermission has been reinterpreted as a crisis. Here's the part that should really stop you. Segmented sleep almost certainly predates recorded history entirely. Anthropologists studying modern hunter gatherer groups with no electricity, including the Hadza in Tanzania and the San in Namibia, have found similarly flexible, non continuous sleep patterns, tied not to any external technology but to darkness itself, to fire dying down, to the temperature dropping in the middle of the night. This wasn't a European quirk. It appears to be something closer to a default human setting, one that industrialization simply erased, which means the version of sleep you think is normal, one long unbroken stretch of 8 hours, is actually the historical outlier. It's not how your species slept for most of its existence. It's how you've been asked to sleep for roughly the last 200 years, ever since artificial light made a segmented night inconvenient for a world that now runs on factory shifts and 9 to 5 schedules. 2 centuries. Against a few 100,000 years of segmented nights before that. Your ancestors weren't broken when they woke up at 2 a.m. They weren't lying there anxious about tomorrow's meetings. They were doing something closer to what your body might actually still want to do, if you gave it permission. Quiet reflection. A conversation. A moment of stillness folded into the middle of the dark. So the next time you wake up at 3 a.m. and your brain starts spiraling, try asking a different question. Not, why can't I sleep? But what would I do with this hour if I weren't afraid of it? Maybe you don't need to fix the waking. Maybe you just need to stop treating it like an emergency. Somewhere in your biology, underneath the alarms and the sleep trackers and the guilt, there's a rhythm that's older than electricity, older than clocks, older than the idea that a night has to be one unbroken thing. Your ancestors met that hour with candlelight and quiet conversation instead of a glowing screen and a racing heart. It's 3 a.m. again. You're awake. And maybe for the first time that's not a problem to solve. It's just your first sleep, ending exactly on schedule.